I call this Town of Adams Board of Selectmen's meeting to order Wednesday, October 16th, 2024. These Board of Selectmen's meetings, including this one, are recorded and televised live on Northern Berkshire Community Television Channel 1303. Is there anyone in the audience who will be filming the meeting this evening? If so, please let the chair know. Hearing from no one? Okay. Next, could everyone please stand and join the Board of Selectmen in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance?
Our flags haven't come back yet.
Yeah.
We can still do it.
Okay.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes. We have two sets this evening. The first one is October 2nd, 2024 meeting minutes. What is the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to waive the reading of the minutes and approve them as submitted for Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024.
Motion made by Christine. Do we have a second?
I'll second it because Ann wasn't there at that meeting, so I'll second that.
Okay, second by Joe. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Abstain.
Okay, one abstention, 3 in favor. Okay, the second set is from October 8th, 2024 meeting minutes. What is the board's pleasure?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes for the October 8th, 2024 meeting.
We have a motion, and we'll waive the reading of the minutes.
Yes, so we'll waive the reading.
We have a motion by Ann. Do we have a second?
Christine, you weren't here, were you on that? Okay, so I'll second that.
Second by Joe. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
One abstention.
All right. Next is public comment. Anyone in the audience who would like to address the board with anything on the agenda this evening other than the public hearing, which you'll have an opportunity anyways. Hearing none. Moving along. Public hearing for the 2025 tax rate classification hearing. Do we have a motion to go into public hearing?
Mr. Chairman, the public hearing was advertised for 6:10 p.m.,
Yeah.
so I don't believe we can go into the public hearing just yet. If we could move to new business instead.
Yep, let's do that.
Matt, Mr. Chair, if I could give a suggestion, because I see that our Council on Aging representative is here, if we could do the ratifications.
I think the Berkshire Gas folks are here, which is item number 1 under new
Okay,
business.
sorry about that.
That's okay. Well, thank you for
I
the
think they're all
suggestion.
here.
Okay, so I think the gas company may take more than the time that we have. Or you want to have them come up? All right, gentlemen, come on up. Could you both please state your name and your affiliation, please?
Senator Alcala. I'm a senior engineering technician with Berkshire Gas.
Okay,
Travis McCarthy, senior engineer.
okay.
I can give a little background before we turn it over to Travis and Salvatore. Several weeks ago, Berkshire Gas came in and explained some of the infrastructure to the gas system improvements that they're doing here in town. They need access to the Memorial School property, the piece of grass, which is essentially the culvert in front of the auditorium section of the building. Salvatore and Travis can explain what that is. The legal mechanism is to give them a right of entry and license agreement, which is a typical legal right to do that. It's temporary. It's only for the duration of the project. What you have in front of you is the language provided by Town Council. And then I also provided to you a template motion, which will allow, once you hear tonight, if you approve it, to move ahead, get it done, and allow Berkshire Gas to execute it. However, some of the technical aspects and what they actually want to do are best served by the engineers themselves. So with that, that's why we asked Travis and Salvatore to show up tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, could you gentlemen, one of you, both of you, go over what work's going to take place, the reasoning for it?
Yeah, so basically the intent of the project is to install a temporary regulated bypass station in the grassy area in front of the middle school, former middle school. The purpose of this is to temporarily supplement the feed into our remaining low pressure system here while we do some replacement activity on Mill Street. There's a bridge there that crosses the Toppet Brook, and we've got to replace our existing pipe there for leak-prone compliance. So as we do that, we'll be severing the sole feed to our current low-pressure system, which is the intent of creating a new temporary feed to that low-pressure system. Once our bridge replacement activity is complete on Mill Street at Toppet, we'll reinstate our existing district regulator station in our fenced area at the corner of Mill and Murray, and we'll be able to retire and remove existing piping per the conditions of the license once construction's completed. We've given ourselves a duration, I believe until May 31st, to allow for restoration after all of our trench lines have been re-backfilled and compacted, give them the winter to settle and fall, and we'll return with permanent restoration, bring loam and seed back as or better than current condition, as well as the existing concrete sidewalk and bituminous concrete driveway.
Okay.
Pretty much that.
Questions from the board? Christine, I'll go right down the line.
Okay.
Ann?
Is this have to do with, because I walk the trail sometimes, that they've been digging down there at the end of that walk bridge? Is that part of it?
Similar compliance program, different piece of the compliance
piece of it,
program.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
And Joe?
Yeah, I just want an explanation where exactly it is. I know that you
Okay.
just said it, but I couldn't, because I know
Yeah.
the Tofit and the Miller converge.
Yep.
And you said Mill Street and Murray Street?
Yeah, so the bridge we'll be replacing pipe on is the bridge that crosses Toppet Brook, where just before it enters the Hoosic River, right on the corner of the St. Stan's property, where the pavilion and the Polish picnic is typically held.
Yeah, our low pressure feed southerly from there, from the intersection of Mill and Murray, on the other side of where you walk across. And so while we do that replacement, we'll not have a feed into the existing network in this area. So this is to supplement it, just on the other side of the river, while this bridge, piping across the bridge is replaced.
The main focus on the project is that replacement activity on Mill Street. Coincidentally, or I guess by nature of the project, we have to install this supplemental feed into the system. We're intending on placing it in that grassy area. I think they use it as a school bus turnaround currently, right there in front of the middle school. We'll install some 4-inch piping leading up to it from a little bit to the south of the memorial there, all within the tree row between the curb and the sidewalk. About 120 feet of 4-inch piping there, run into this temporary station, run out of it with some 12-inch piping, cross underneath Columbia Street, tie into our existing main there in the northbound travel lane. That's pretty much the extent of our impact there at 30 Columbia, or at the middle school.
And so when we hear station, it's not a police station. This is a roughly a 4-foot by 8-foot skid that will have above grade piping that will be housed in some kind of fiberglass enclosure, our typical green huts as we call them, or something very similar, so secured per federal code. We will also be installing temporary traffic control around it, whether it's bollards, jersey barriers, guardrail, or something of that nature. Though it's not in the direct path of traffic, we still have federal code compliance to protect it from vehicular traffic.
And how much pressure will be coming in and going out?
So it's fed by a 35-pound system, and quarter PSI, or inches water column, is fed out.
Okay. Because I know there's, in the past, it's probably been the workmanship or the decay of the gas lines, but a lot of those pump houses there, they're vulnerable. And will you have it fenced in, so other than just that green building, will you have a fence around it to stop people from going near it?
We didn't plan that, we typically don't.
Okay.
We have, again, the secure locked enclosures. We have them up on the corner of Commercial and just past the Viking Pub there. It's not there anymore.
Okay.
Obviously, the one in our yard is fenced in. You know, if necessary, that we can install temporary fencing around there as well. But
Yeah, because it's in an area where a lot of people are around, and, you know, that would just be a suggestion on my part. I'm not making it mandatory, but I think it may be a good idea.
absolutely, yeah, no, we can, it's not a problem. It'd probably be in the nature of temporary fencing that's bolted together,
Yeah.
if that's all right. Still with vehicular traffic and with the covers, but yes, that's definitely doable.
So, and just my last question, how deep are you gonna dig this temporary line?
4-inch one, we'll be digging to about 36 inches just to get our sand pad in underneath our pipe. The 12-inch will be a little bit more substantial, probably closer to 4.5 feet. And we will have to dive a little bit, probably closer to the realm of 5.5 to 6 feet to tie into the existing historical cast iron in the travel lane.
And last question, what usually is the final depth for the inch that you're dealing with? Of course, you said the larger pipe will go lower.
Right, so, oh, yeah, so we have federal, state, and company minimum depths to these based on whether it's in-road or off-road. In-road, I believe we are 30 inches minimum to the top of the pipe, minimum, with a specific makeup of your backfill, your warning tape, tracer wire, whatever's in there. Off-road, for mains, I believe it's 24 inches minimum.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you for
Okay.
clarifying things.
Absolutely.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the license agreement with Berkshire Gas, subject to approval as to form by town council, and authorize the chair and/or town administrator to execute it once final.
Motion by Christine, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Ann. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, now, public hearing, 2025 tax rate classification hearing. Can I have a motion to go into public hearing?
I'll make a motion to go into the public hearing for the 2025 tax rate classification hearing.
Motion by Christine, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ann, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, none, unanimous. You're on. Good evening.
In accordance with Chapter 369 of the Acts of 1982, a public hearing must be held before a determination is made on whether the town will have a classified tax structure. This hearing is required before the tax rate can be approved by the Commissioner of Revenue. So the packet that was provided to you has all the information needed to help you make an informed decision. I'm going to review that information with you and answer any questions that you might have. The total levy for fiscal year 2025 is $14,612,055. That's the amount of money that we need to raise through taxes. The fiscal year 2025 total valuation for real, commercial, industrial, and personal property is $811,554,340. Our total new growth for fiscal year 2025 is $4,721,896, which is quite a decrease from last year. We didn't see a lot of new growth this year. Last year we had over $5 million due to the mill houses of Adams and their pilot agreement expiring. So if we take the tax levy number and the valuation, it equals our tax rate of, according to the state, $18.01 would be the unshifted tax rate. Of that $18.01, $102, 2 is due to the debt exclusion for Hoosick Valley. Any decision that is made tonight by the board needs to be approved by the Department of Revenue, and the tax rate amounts can shift slightly due to rounding. So, in your packet, I gave you a list of shift factors. I did highlight the 30%, which is what we used last year. So the average single-family home that was valued last year at $218,000 is now valued at $239,000. That's per the state. Last year's tax rate was $17.54. If you go with the 30%, this year, that tax rate would be $17.01. For commercial property, I use the same property every year, as there is not an average. Last year, the commercial property was $808,000. Yes, this year, that same property is $858,000. And if we go with the 30% shift, that tax rate this year would be $23.41, down from $24.23 last year. The tax rate, the tax bill increase for that same home this year would be $241.67. And the decrease on that commercial property would be $507.94.
Wait, did you say it would be a decrease?
It would be a decrease, and the reason for that is because the commercial, industrial, and personal property values did not increase like the residential
Okay,
values increased.
because the chart doesn't have a minus sign with the 507.94.
You're right, it does not.
So is it an increase or a
It
decrease?
is a decrease. Well,
You
I
can
say it was a
confirm that?
decrease. I can do math really quickly,
Okay,
but I have a decrease here.
but what was presented to us does not show a decrease. So I just,
Right.
Commercial
No.
property increased more though than residential, went from
Yeah, went
808
from-
to 858.
it's an increase of 50,000 over last year, where the residential is 20,000.
It would be a decrease.
And can you explain how you got to that number? Can you do the math out loud? Just to
Well,
confirm.
because last year, the bill was, well, no, you're right, it is an increase. I apologize, it is an increase. Last year, that same bill for that property was $19,577. This year, it would be $20,085, so it is an increase.
Okay. Those were the numbers I thought we were talking about, but I thought you were doing some other kind of
No, I'm
math over
sorry.
there.
No,
I was
well,
like,
It must be the new math.
okay. I'm like, 20 is more than 19, so I was very confused. Thank you.
It's always a lot of numbers.
Yeah.
Are you all set? Paula,
I am all set. Any questions? I'm happy to answer.
could you explain the increases in assessments? What's the reason for it? What causes that?
So the reason for the increase in values is due to sales, mainly sales. We're still seeing houses being sold for quite a bit over what we have it assessed at. And we have no choice but to increase the values. These are state guidelines we go by, so there's certain formulas we have to go by. The commercial, industrial, and personal property, those values did not increase as much because there wasn't as many sales.
And where do you see the trend now, continuing as is, or starting to decrease? I know it's hard to
It's starting to
speculation.
even out a little bit, not completely.
Okay,
There's still quite a few homes there that are being sold over what we have valued.
okay. So it doesn't go by the last purchase price? Is that part of the formula?
It's one of the factors.
One of the factors?
It's one of the
yes.
factors, yes.
Okay. All right, questions from the board? I'll start with Joe this time, and we'll come this way.
Okay, do you know how many homes are on the market in Adams for sale?
Off the top of my head, because I look at, Realtor.com every single day.
Yeah.
I believe there's 22 on the market that are not pending, so that are open for sale. And that includes residential, commercial, and land. I don't know how many are pending or contingent at this point, but I know that's what's out there available.
And what have you seen for a trend over the last 5 years of homes being sold? Would this be a high water mark? Would this be in the middle? If you can remember, I know it's hard to get it off the top of your head.
Right, this is high,
Yeah.
We're still having houses, going for $100,000 over our assessed value.
But I'm talking about numbers of houses.
Oh, numbers of houses. I'm gonna say right now, we may be average.
Average?
We were down quite a bit. Right around COVID, we had a lot of houses being sold. Then it dropped off, and I think we're getting back to average right now.
And I believe during the COVID period, the houses are selling quicker.
Yes.
than they probably would be
Yes.
right now, because people want to get away from the settings where the COVID was.
Yes,
And I know
they are staying on the market a little longer.
Yeah.
Some of them.
And there's a difference between a tax rate, that's the percentage at which an income and individuals or corporations are taxed. But I want to know, in the last 5 years, how have the tax bills gone, money-wise, in the last 5 years? Just the tax bill, that's all I'm interested in.
So the individual tax bill,
Yeah.
they've gone up. I've been doing this 3 years now.
Yeah.
And every year, there's been an increase. And that's mainly due to the increased value of the property. The tax rate has come down, but the values have
Yeah,
gone up.
right, so that's the whole different thing, tax
Correct.
rate, because,
Correct.
you can make it look pretty
Right.
with a tax rate, but
Right.
when it comes to taxes, that's money out of people's
Correct.
pocket. And they have to pay that, so they have been going up. Do you think there's any credence in having, I think there's been some discussion about this, of quarterly taxing, because I think that would help take the blunt of payments instead of 2 each year. It might soften it somewhat for people. I know there might be extenuating circumstances with, getting more work for the people that are getting this out, but I think in times that we live in, I think it may be more accommodating for people, and that's just a thought that I have, because...
There has been some discussion.
Right.
But that's as far as it has gotten at this point.
Yep. And another thing that I've brought up in the past, this is a hard decision for me to make personally, one of the hardest. But another thing, and I've brought this up before, our community has a lot of rental properties. And when taxes go up, the people that have the rental units can pass on the cost to the renters. And even though they're not paying taxes, that takes more money out of their pocket. And it makes that much more difficult for them to, make a go of it, because generally speaking, people that live in apartment units, unless they're top scale, are on the lower end of the income. And so that's something that I think needs to be taken care of. And also, we have a lot of blight in our community, a lot more than I can ever remember as living in Adams my whole life. And people that have homes that they keep them up next to a blighted property, the evaluation of their house goes down, because anybody coming, they can show it in the paper and they say, boy, that looks nice. But then when you come up to look at the property, if you're willing to purchase it, and you see a blighted home next to it, they're gonna either say, well, this isn't what I'm looking for in a polite way, or, but I think that that's one thing that this community needs to start looking at, definitely, is blighted homes, because we do have a lot of them. And as I've been told, and I understand that it's expensive to do it, but in the long run, I think it makes a community more livable in people coming to it. And because I've been told a lot of times by people that, this house next to mine isn't kept up, and, I'm doing my best because my house is going to be my future retirement. So that's just a comment, and that's all I have to say right now. I may have more as we progress.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, Ann?
I have no questions.
Christine?
Yeah, so I do have a couple of questions. I agree with Joe that we've talked a lot about quarterly billing, and I'd like to see us move towards that. I looked at what our sister municipalities are doing across the Commonwealth, and 289 communities do quarterly billing. So when we talk about bills that are going out, and my bill here in Adams versus somebody's bill in North Adams, like, it's not apples and apples for a lot of different reasons. One, we have a sewer rate, they don't on our tax rate, but like, I think that's a lot of communities that we can pick their brains from and look at how we can do quarterly billing. There's 50 communities who are going with semi-annual billing. 15 in Berkshire County are among those 50. So maybe we can do some kind of technical assistance grant or some kind of work with those 15 communities to figure out how we can all work towards quarterly billing. And that left 12 that were doing some preliminary semi-annual billing, which is apparently billing before you know what the tax rate is. So that seems a little bit of a gamble over there. But I think that is something we can work toward. We have been talking about it, so I'd like to see that coming out of the assessor's office and the tax collector's office to see if we can move towards that, because I do think that would be helpful for a lot of our residents to have quarterly billing. I did want to go back to the comment about the new growth. So I know that last year it was a bit of an anomaly. We talked a lot about that $14 million was something that we hadn't seen in a very long time. And this $4.7 million in growth is in line with kind of where we've been in the past. So when I went back and I looked at previous years, it looks like we're right between like 2021, 2022
Correct.
Growth numbers, where 21 was around 4 million, 22 is around 5 million, and I'm just using rough numbers at this point, and 23 is 6 million. So it looks like we're kind of where we have been.
Correct.
But we can't always guarantee that, because again, 14 million to 4 million, that's a
It's a big jump.
big jump. I did start to look at the number of single-family parcels that we have, and DLS is reporting that we have 7 more than we did last year, so I'm just wondering, were those new homes, or are they
New homes, and then properties that have been split.
Okay. And so how many of the 7 are new homes versus split?
Off the top of my head,
Yeah.
maybe 4 new homes?
Okay. Okay. Because it looks like it's been a change each year, like, it's been like 1 more parcel than like 6, then 1,
So are
then
you looking at
5.
just single-family?
Single-family
Because
parcels.
sometimes if there's a duplex in town and they decide to keep it as a one-family, that will change that number as well. We've had a couple of those.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's what I figured it was, but I was like, oh, 7, so I thought that the growth number would have been a little higher, because I thought maybe it was 7 new homes.
And some of those new homes are partial new growth this year,
Okay,
and there'll be partial new growth next year.
okay. Yep. And to your point, I do see houses are definitely selling over
Yes.
what they're assessed at. I think I saw a recent one that was about 70,000 over last year's assessment, so it's, but it does still look like we are still an affordable community versus some of our neighboring communities, where our average home is still around 200,000. It's a little over that right now, where most of our other communities in the Berkshires have skyrocketed over 300.
Yes, we're not alone.
Right.
With our assessments going up, we're not alone.
Yep. There's not, yes, they didn't go as high as the others. All right, I think those are all my number questions, so thanks.
Welcome.
Joe's talked about this with the tax rate, but for those that do follow the tax rate and have had many discussions over the years, the $17.01 is the lowest tax rate since 2012. So there's more information for them to just put into their discussions. So I just want to go over one more time the average home evaluation, the one that's right in the middle, the lucky winner. That number is again
39?
Sorry, let me get that paperwork. So for this year, that house is valued at $239,000.
$239,000.
Correct.
Which is an increase of,
You're gonna make me do math again?
21,000.
well, I should have stated it differently. It's, I should have said increase. What is the
Percentage?
tax, the amount of taxes they're going to pay?
So the amount of taxes they will
If we start
pay,
the same shift.
if we do the same shift, will be $4,065.39.
Okay, which is an increase over last year.
$262.12.
Okay.
No,
That's residential?
no,
that's not-
241.67. I have too many numbers here. Thank you, Christine.
I was like, oh, you're really confusing
I'm
me.
really confused. That paper's gone under there. Okay.
That's residential.
That is residential.
Okay.
That's the average single-family home.
Okay.
Yes.
And that is for the whole fiscal year, it's not for the
Correct.
first half, okay?
That's a good point, Joe. So everyone above that number, assessed above, will pay more incrementally, and everyone below that assessed number, they will pay less than this average.
Yeah, so that number would be divided by 2.
That
increase,
As Ben mentioned, this will be divided by 2. Go ahead, Jay.
About $120.
$120 for each, the semi-annual bill.
And if it was quarterly, it'd be about $60.40, give or take.
Right. So, so after tonight's vote, that means we have set the tax rate, right? So the bills will be going out, so that's what everybody's asking.
When will the bills go
When
out?
will the tax bills be coming out? And we have Kelly here, but do we know, is it a couple weeks?
It will probably be a few weeks.
few weeks.
We have to wait for the state to approve your decision tonight.
Right. Okay, so,
And we need so much time in order to get this to the biller, and
So,
so
at
it
least-
will be before November 1st,
okay. All right,
or
that's,
by November 1st.
okay. That's all I have. Joe, anything?
Yeah, I have a few more things. One thing we have to realize in this town, that we don't have many buildable lots left. A lot of our land is in agricultural preservation, which I'm happy about, because I think it's important to have that way. And that brings me back to blight, because The only farm left that's not in agricultural preservation is the Zimba Farm, and there's a lot of land up there, so who knows how long they'll be farming, what their plans are after. But other than that property, we don't have all that much. So I think about blight, if we can harness that and, you know, take away some of the homes that are deteriorated, we have lots, we have building lots. And if the town takes them over and they're in good areas, then that's something that might be able to sell. And I think we really need to concentrate on that. And we've gone over residential, and it would be 100 and 241.67 above on the tax rate. But what did we do for commercial, and how will that look? I know that Christine brought up some numbers that were askew, so how would that play?
Sorry about that.
That's quite okay.
So again, there is no average commercial or industrial property. So I use the same property every year. And this year, that is $858,000 for that piece of property, which is $50,000 more than it was last year.
Just $50,000 for commercial?
$50,000 more
Right.
for this one property. So if you go
What
with,
property are you going by?
I don't think she can,
I don't know.
yeah,
Okay.
I was gonna say, you normally don't tell us.
yeah,
Okay.
sorry,
it's a
I usually don't.
snapshot.
Right. So if you go with the 30%, it will be a $507.94 increase over last year.
And that is again?
And that is-
500 and what?
$507.94. And that's total, so that would be split in two.
Okay, divided
Now,
by 2.
just keep in mind while Joe's on that point, if the board were to vote a 25% shift, that would be a $282 increase to the residential, but that would be a decrease of $264 for a commercial property. So at the 30% shift, there's a modest, there's an increase to the residential at $241, and there's a $507 increase to commercial. So both classifications of property increase. If the board were to go to 35%, just to look on the other side of that, a 35% shift would decrease the residential to $203 average single-family tax bill down to $203 increase over last year, but would increase a commercial property upwards of $1,200. So that's what the board's being asked for tonight. Those are the numbers that I believe the board's always looked at in terms of an equitable shift in order to determine what's the least impact for both classifications of property. So 30% this year looks like the sweet spot.
Yeah, and as far as commercial, that bothers me because that's the backbone of a community is your commercial businesses. And I've always kind of wondered within the property, I won't mention a name, but there's a place here in Adams, they've got big machines inside of their, building, and that's would be taxed. And I've always wondered how you go in and ascertain how much those would be. Does anybody who has an expertise in machinery, or do you just go in and say, geez, do you ever talk to the owner or anything?
So
Because they might not give you
They
that.
have to fill out a form of list for the property located inside the building. And generally, larger corporations such as that has an accountant doing their
Yeah.
paperwork. And they give it a value based on what they paid for it, how old it is, and then there's a depreciation schedule that we have to follow.
Yeah.
So that comes from their accountant.
Yeah, so you just take it and look at it and say, and you go for what the accountant says, there's no follow-up or anything to look?
Well, we match it with what they had last year. We make sure that everything they had last year, they have this year, or if they have new equipment, we put the new equipment in.
Because I know, I just believe regardless, it's a sticky slope to get into when you're looking at, businesses that have a lot of machinery and a lot of things, because machinery is very expensive.
Yes.
Well, I think that's it for me.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, so if anyone wants to dispute their tax assessment or bill, whatever, they can make an appointment with your office? As a
Yes, so they
process?
can come into my office. It cannot be done until the tax bills go out,
Okay,
and they have 30 days.
30 days.
That's it. After those 30 days, which is the date that the tax bill is due, they cannot seek an abatement
Okay,
for that fiscal year.
thank you. All right, this is a hearing, public hearing. Anyone from the audience who would like to ask questions of our town assessor or the Board of Selectmen? Okay, seeing none, can motion to come out of public hearing?
I'll make the motion come out of public hearing.
Motion by Christine, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Ann, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, unanimous. Okay, so what is the board's pleasure for the tax classification?
I will make a motion to move forward with a 30% shift, which would bring the residential tax rate to $17 and a penny, and the commercial tax rate to $23.41.
Motion by Christine, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ann. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm going to oppose it. I just think that people in this community are stretched out, and I have to honestly say that I haven't seen much of an attempt in our community to make cuts to kind of offset some of this. It's been a go, 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 higher, 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 and we're a community that's, you know, less and less people, and it seems like we've got more and more things as far as personnel and that type of thing. So I'm just going to vote against the tax rate. And I know we need taxes to keep things going, but I just been hearing too much from people in this community that they're at the max, so I'm voting against it.
So we have 3 in favor, 1 opposed. Okay? All right.
Can I just clarify that if we had kept with a single tax rate, it would have been an increase to residential bills at $480.67. And so what the shift does is it reduces that tax bill for our residents by $240, that's why I appreciate this chart when you put this in our packets each year, because really there isn't anything that the board can do about the tax rate. It is $18 and a penny, and it's really whether or not we want to shift any of that to the commercial side. So I just wanted to make sure that we had stated that. If we had kept it at a single rate, our commercial folks would have seen a decrease, or at least this property, this property, not the average, this property would have seen a decrease of $4,125.26. So it did seem, you know, in these numbers here that you had given us, that there was some room there to shift this to the commercial to give our residents a little bit of a break. So taxes, unfortunately, are a necessary beast, I guess, and yeah. So I just wanted to make sure that, because I didn't say it in my motion about the single tax rate would have been this to shift it.
Okay.
So thanks.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Paul.
Can I just clarify something? I've heard 1701 and 1801.
So the single rate would have been 1801, and with the shift of 30%, it's 1701. Yes, you are very welcome.
Okay, moving along, we are now under new business. The update on the construction of Colin Grain Park.
Good evening. So I'm filling in for Eamon tonight for this portion of it, and then we can go into the dog park rules afterwards. A brief update, the park project at 1 Cook Street is 99% complete. We are only unfortunately awaiting the delivery of picnic benches or picnic tables, which will be installed. I believe they are estimated to be 7 or so weeks out, but that is the last kind of remaining piece of the construction project. And I was able to go over there the other day, and it was kind of remarkable. One of my first site visits when I started here in Adams was actually over to the dog park in January. It was very cold, and it was very tough for me to kind of imagine a park there, and being able to kind of go over there and see it now is really amazing. And so hopefully, we'll be able to open that shortly once we get the delivery and installation of those picnic tables.
Could you just state your name for the record?
Oh, sorry. So my name is Kobe Targic. I'm the program manager for the Community Development Office.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Excuse me, any questions from the board on that subject?
I'd like to say that I like how the park looks myself. I've been there a few times to walk around. The only downfall I see is the use of that limestone for the parking in the walkway, because I think just in time with heavy rains and that type of thing, we're going to have washouts, but I like what I see there. I think it's quite nice.
Yep, very nice. Looking forward to the grand opening.
Yeah, the scissors and the grand opening ribbon are ready. But, and, I'll echo what Joe just said. It does look very nice over there. I've had a number of people comment to me on it. It's been nice to walk by and see it looking as lovely as it does, so well done.
Okay, moving on to new business, item C, review and approve rules for use of dog park at 1 Cook Street per Parks Commission recommendations.
Yes, so as we are nearing opening this new park, the park, for those of you that don't know, has a dog park component to it. It's a separate fenced-in area towards the far end of the park. And so in order to open that, we need, the town needs to enact some rules that govern how people are operating or interacting with the dog park. So just to give you some background as to kind of the process for getting to this set of potential rules, community development staff, we looked at neighboring dog parks, so neighboring communities that have dog parks. Primarily, we wanted to focus on Western Mass, and really wanted to highlight what are the key rules for a lot of these dog parks. We didn't want it to be a situation where we have such an expansive list that we have to tie a magnifying glass to the sign so that you have to kind of look at the fine print for the dog park rules. We want them to be clear and accessible for everyone so they feel comfortable going and kind of making use of the park. So what we did, kind of found those common denominators among a lot of these parks, and that's that list before you today. And so it's up to you if you want to go through the rules one by one, or if you just want to, if you have any questions about specific rules. But I did also want to mention the fact that we did talk with the town's insurer, Maya, about this to get their thoughts on this. They didn't have any specific rules that they required. They just simply stated that we need to have a sign visible at the park, and that it is it has some disclosures on it that we'll work with town council on finalizing.
Through the chair, I was wondering if it would be okay if Kobe read the rules, because people watching would have a general idea of what would be expected if they brought their dogs to the park. It's not that extensive.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So I broke these up into separate groups or categories. So first is the use of the park. You're using the park at your own risk. And so the entrance to the dog park is done at your own risk. The town of Adams takes no responsibility for injuries or illnesses to dogs or humans that occur at the park. Also, owners are solely responsible for injuries and damage caused by their dogs. Next, the types of dogs allowed at the park. So all dogs must be licensed, vaccinated, and spayed or neutered. All dogs must wear a tag identifying their valid town license. And moving on to the leash requirements, dogs must be leashed and under control of a handler when outside of the gated enclosure. And even when they are in the gated enclosure, handlers must have a leash readily accessible, even when their dog is in the enclosure. And then some responsibilities for the handlers of the dog. So handlers must immediately clean up any dog waste and properly dispose of it. Handlers must immediately stop their dog from digging holes in the park and fill in any holes created. Handlers must immediately remove their dog from the park if it's displaying aggressive behavior towards people or other dogs. Handlers must prevent their dogs from barking excessively. Any dogs barking excessively must be removed from the park. And finally, handlers must always remain within view and voice control of their dogs.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board?
Well, just a comment. I think the police of this park are going to have to be the people that are there, because we don't have the ability to have someone there all the time and, you know, looking if the dogs have their collars and, you know, their needed vaccines and the like. So I think that it's going to be up to the people that use it to be the police of it, to make the place, keep it in good working condition. And because, you know, you get a lot of feces around there and other things, and, you know, so people will have to go by the rules. And I think once in a while there might have to be a check by somebody from our town department or a policeman that goes down there to show that, you know, somebody's going to be there now and then, because unless I'm misstating this, I don't believe there's going to be anybody down there every day, you know, patrolling the park and things, so.
Right, and so we were kind of the same mind on that point. We are working on creating a Friends of the Dog Park group. So volunteers who will we'll get together once we've had some interest, but we want to advertise a little bit more. And I think it'll be a help when the dog park is actually open too. I think more people using it will lend themselves to volunteering for it. But we kind of envision that group as taking an ownership role in the park and kind of making sure that people are following these rules. If there are issues, they can come to town staff and have an open line to us so that we can address those issues right away. And it really, I think, gives them, members of the community, ownership over the park as well.
Right, yeah, I believe strongly in that, because dogs are certainly part of a family, that's for sure. Okay, that's all I have.
Any other questions,
Is
Christine?
there
Oh,
any
go ahead.
timeline when you can't go into, excuse me, can't use the park?
So the hours for, that's another hurdle that we, as a town, are going to have to address. Currently, as the town bylaws are drafted, each park in town is individually listed out with the same hours of operation. And so we're going to have to, I think, either change the language of that bylaw or just simply add the new park to that. And that's going to require a town meeting vote to change those hours or to set those hours. And I think it may be, appropriate to take a look at that bylaw and maybe address or change it so that it can be modified more easily, so that you don't have to go to town meeting every time you want to change the hours of a park in town.
Okay.
And I just have and this will be it. I would think it would be a good idea when it first opens, not to just have that sign there, but perhaps early on to give people a paper with all the rules so they can go home and digest it. So if they're policing it and they see something that's written here and another dog owner's dog is doing the particular thing they shouldn't be doing, because I think people that, you know, go and they might just glare at the rules. A lot of people just want to get in there. So that's just a suggestion. And the last thing I'll say is that I'm glad to see this is going to be up and running, but I have to say, as an individual, I think it's taken a lot more time than it should have. Because I remember Jim Bush, the late Jim Bush, he was the person that was going to be the liaison to that, and Jim's been gone for quite a while. So, but I'm glad to see that it's open, and we'll just see how it goes. And thank you.
Christine?
Yeah, so in terms of enforcement, our animal control officer does have the authority to actually enforce these rules. I mean, our animal control officer can issue tickets for any dog that is not licensed or wearing the identification. In the animal control officer's job description, it is also her job, and she has the authority to go into our parks and any town property and so forth. And if there is dog waste that can be attributed to somebody's dog, she can issue tickets to that person. So I do think that, as I say that, you know, the enforcement, yes, we hope that dog owners will be responsible dog owners and take care of their dogs. And I think the majority will, but it might be good to have the animal control officer at the time of maybe opening to help with the education component of how to use the dog park. So that would be my suggestion, is to involve the police chief and the animal control officer at this point, if you haven't, and make sure that we're ready to go come day one,
Okay.
so that there is some enforcement. There's some teeth behind some of that.
And we're also looking into possibly installing cameras as well, just to, as a deterrent as well, you know, if it gets to the point where we need to use video of, you know, incidents, then we can, but I think it'll act as a little bit of a deterrent as well, for those that don't want
I
to.
think the camera idea is wonderful, because if you walk the trail, you can pick the spots where people let their dog do their thing and they don't clean up. And it's always where it's more accessible to get it on and off the trail quickly. And it's, sometimes it can be really bad.
Yeah.
Several years ago, when Chief Tarsa was the chief of police, the Adams Visitor Center, we didn't have a closure time. And there were some young individuals hanging out there, and the police really didn't have much they could do with enforcement because there was no signs. And the board at the time approved 9 o'clock, same as all the other ones, that the visitor center would be closed in the grounds, so they would have that enforcement if, you know, non-dog owners, I'm sure for our instance this evening, that they'll be able to move them along, and so they're not hanging out. So I would like to hopefully include in the motion that we add to these regulations that the park closes at 9 o'clock, and then town meeting will just have to add the park. But I'd like to give the police department the tools, the ability to enforce, to get everybody out of there at 9 o'clock, non-dog owners from hanging out. It was near the Hoosier Coal and Grain Building, which, you know, we're working on that too, and it's just better to keep people moving along after dark. So I can make that motion first, I believe, to add to these potential these dog park rules, including in these rules that the dog park will close at 9 o'clock. I'll make that as a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ann. Discussion.
Yeah, just a quick discussion. I mean, this time of the year, 9 o'clock is pretty late because it gets dark at, 4:30. And I think there'll be less users, I believe, when it's cold and snowy. And 9 o'clock is, I worry about taggers, because those, the cement barriers and things, people go around with spray paint, you see it everywhere. And they don't do it when no one's around, they do it when it's open so people can see their quote tag. And that's one thing I worry about also, because it's just the way that taggers do it, I guess, because you look all over town there on buildings, and I don't know how you stop that, but cameras wouldn't be a bad idea, but they're expensive. And I guess because, I wanted a camera at Susan B. Anthony's statue, and so far so good, but in order to get it like to the police station, right, Jay, it'd be very costly to have that, connected in so it went into
Yeah,
the police
so-
station.
We're doing them slowly but surely.
Yeah.
That one's just more complicated
Yeah.
than we'd like.
Right,
Power,
Yeah.
Wi-Fi signal.
right. Would it be easier at the park, the dog park?
I don't know, Eamon hasn't talked to me about that. There's power drop to that building, but I think the service has been terminated, so
Yeah,
I'm
I
not sure
believe it
where
would
he's gonna draw
probably
the
be.
power.
I think we were looking at 5G solar-operated cameras.
That's the way to go, solar.
Go
Yeah.
ahead, Christine.
So, Kobe, you had mentioned that the hours of operation is a bylaw.
Yes.
So can you go through that process again, and whether a vote here helps get you closer to doing the bylaw, or, because from my understanding, my limited understanding from what you just said to us a little while ago, is that, it wouldn't just be us making that decision, we have to go to town meeting,
Right, if
based
it's
on
a
how it is.
bylaw.
Yeah,
change,
to amend
yeah.
the bylaw,
Right.
to either add the park, or if, I think it may be a good idea to take a look at just the language of that bylaw to maybe make it a little bit easier for the board to make amend park rules or park hours. For instance, if, a team is at Renfrew Park at a Friday night game, they might be there longer than 9 PM.
Right.
And currently, it's listed as it's supposed to be closed at 9 PM. So just clarifying that, and that might, I think that'll help out. But yeah, that would have to be by town meeting.
Okay.
But you can close this one by regulation. Rules and regulations are in front of you tonight for a piece of infrastructure that hasn't existed and isn't referenced in the bylaw. You can make that motion tonight to close it at 9 PM or whatever time you want, and the police can still enforce that, just not through a bylaw mechanism. It's a regulation. It's no different than the rule that says you can't have dogs on a playing field. That's not a bylaw. That's a regulation of the Board of Health. You can close it at 9, it's just through a different mechanism. And the point that Kobe's trying to make is it's probably best to eventually carve that out as a regulation, so at any given time, this board can change those hours. But you can make this one a regulation. There's nothing wrong with that.
May I just ask, the Park Commission's been involved with this, right?
Yeah, so I met with them last Monday.
Right.
They voted, we had some discussion, they asked some
I
questions.
saw it, yeah.
And they voted to recommend it to the, to your
Okay,
board.
so they were happy with it, yep.
Yes.
I'm not, what Jay brought up, I'm not aware of, since it's a new place, the regulation could be different, because I know the parks were involved in it, and all the parks have times for their fields, so this won't be part of the park system?
No, it's
Okay.
just not part of the bylaw that controls what time the parks close.
Okay,
It's a Board of Selectmen's regulation. Right.
Which is what the intent would be, to make them all that way. This would just happen to be the first one. Because it doesn't exist yet.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
that's for 9 o'clock?
Yep.
9 o'clock,
Aye.
same as others. Opposed? Unanimous decision. Not taking up the whole list, and the Parks Commission did a great job putting these together with your support. Do we have a motion to accept the dog park rules provided by the Parks Commission?
I'll make a motion to approve the dog park rules for the dog park at 1 Cook Street per the recommendation of the Parks Commission.
Motion by Christine, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Ann. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I would just like to make one discussion thought. Would you think it would be viable to do this for like a 3-month period to see if there's any chinks in the rules that we didn't think of? And then come back, and if it worked out the way that the rules were written, then to go for it. That's just a suggestion.
I think we can always go back anytime to.
You think
to
you
take
can?
a-
Okay, yeah,
to
all right.
Look at these.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, unanimous. Thank you.
Thanks, Kobe.
Okay, we're down to the ratifications. We have 2, both for Council on Aging van drivers. I'm going to leave the information up to the person that makes the motion. What is the board's?
No, I'm just available for questions if anybody has
Okay, to answer any questions? Okay. Does the board have any questions in regards to these ratifications, or a motion to be made?
Can I have a suggestion, Sarah? Do you have a copy of the letters that you wrote for us?
Yes.
Can you read each one, and then we can take them up individually?
Sure. Yep. First one is, I would like to recommend Adams resident Barry Garton be appointed as per diem van driver at the Adams Council on Aging. Responsibilities include safely transporting Adams and Savoy residents 60 and older to medical, recreational, and other related purposes within northern Berkshire towns in the handicap-accessible 8-passenger van. Extensive training is provided prior to transporting residents. Once ratified and contingent upon successfully passing and completing any hiring requirements of the town of Adams, Mr. Garton will begin his employment on or about October 17th at a grade 5, step 1 level, which is $18.46 hourly. He would be a valued addition to the Adams COA staff in the role of per diem van driver. Any questions about Mr. Garten?
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to ratify the appointment of Barry Garten as a per diem van driver with the Adams Council on Aging at a grade 5, step 1 rate of $18.46 an hour.
Motion by Christine, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ann, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, unanimous.
All right, and then second might be a familiar name to some. I would like to recommend former Adams COA driver Rita Clark be appointed as a per diem van driver at the Adams Council on Aging. Responsibilities include safely transporting Adams and Savoy residents, 60 and older, to medical, recreational, and all other related purposes within northern Berkshire towns in the handicap-accessible 8-passenger van. Extensive training is provided prior to transporting residents. Once ratified and contingent upon successfully passing and completing any hiring requirements, the town of Adams, Ms. Clark will begin her employment on or about October 17th at a grade 5, step 1 level, which is $18.46 hourly. She would be a valued addition to the Adams Council on Aging staff in the role of per diem van driver and will be lucky to have her back.
Okay. What is the board's pleasure?
I'll make a motion to ratify the appointment of Rita Clark as per diem van driver with the Adams Council on Aging at a grade 5, step 1 rate of $18.46 an hour.
Motion by Christine, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ann, any discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, Rita did a great thing one time with the van. I forget the incident, I mean, the brakes went or something.
Yeah, and it was a snowy
Yeah.
afternoon, and she was sliding down a hill, and she
Got it under
performed
control.
a very unique maneuver and got it under control.
Yep. And the last thing I want to ask before we vote is, what is the reason that we're going through so many van drivers?
We're not going through them. I'm looking to kind of change how we operate. So
Okay.
right now, we have 2 main van drivers. One drives 4 days a week, another drives 3 days a week. And I think this role is attractive to people who are retired and looking to participate only once or twice a week rather than 3 to 4 times a week. So I'm just looking to build up our staff so that we can then decrease the number of days each driver is
Okay.
driving.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, unanimous, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Okay, we have announcements. November 2024 election information. I believe our town clerk is here.
I feel like I sound like a broken record every time I come before you guys, because all I talk about are elections. But guess what? There's an election coming up, less than 3 weeks away, if anybody's counting. November 5th, 2024. We will be at the Memorial Building from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. if you would like to come and cast your vote. But if you don't feel like you can come on November 5th, we are more than happy to accommodate you. We have mailed out over 1,600 ballots. We've gotten back about 40% of them, so we're very happy. If you still have them at home and you haven't gotten them back to us, please send them back. Put them in the mailbox, put them in the drop box out in front of Town Hall, or you can actually just walk them right down to the office and we'd be more than happy to take it from you. And again, if you haven't done that, but you want to vote in-person early voting, guess what? It starts this Saturday, October 19th. Town Hall will be open from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. We will be more than happy to accommodate you. So we will be here this Saturday again from 9 to 3. We will be here all next week, normal business hours. And if you haven't made it in by then, feel free to stop and see us the following Saturday, October 26th from 9 to 5. By the way, if you haven't registered to vote, please do so by then. You have until 5 o'clock to stop in and see us. And if you have any concerns, if you are a registered voter, feel free to call our office. We'll check for you, and if you haven't, we will explain to you how you can do it in a real quick manner. And if you still haven't decided what you want to do about voting, you can come see us the following week from the 28th to the 1st. We will be here normal business hours, more than happy to help you. So again, in case you haven't realized, there's an election coming up. November 5th, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. It's less than 3 weeks away. No one's counting here, but, and again, if you don't want to come visit us at the Memorial Building, but we will be more than happy. We have plenty of staff. They'd love to see your smiling face, check you in, hand you a ballot, get you checked out, and you're back on your merry way to whatever you need to do that day. But do know that there is an election November 5th. Oh, and by the way, if you haven't studied up on your questions, please do so. Everyone should have received these in the mail. If you haven't received it in the mail, we have plenty of these red books here at Town Hall. We're more than happy to mail you one. You can stop in and pick them up. So please be prepared when you come to the election. The print on the ballots is a little small, so we ask you to kind of come and be prepared. So please read up on all those questions. There are 5 questions this year. So that's all I have for now. I won't see you again unless you have another meeting. But again, November 5th from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Memorial Building. We're looking forward to seeing you.
Yeah, I'd just like to make, well, more of a comment. This election coming up, I mean, I'm an older person, and this election has quite a consequence to who is selected for our president. And I'm predicting that the town of Adams, percentage-wise, will have its biggest turnout in quite a long time, percentage-wise. Okay, come on up.
Okay, I just want to let you know, I was just looking today at some of our numbers from 2020, which was a huge turnout.
Yeah.
We had just shy of 2,500 mail-in ballots that we processed that day, and we ended up with 72% for our voters coming out to vote. So we're actually looking forward to having more people come out and vote. I'd like to hit 80%. So again, if you're in Adams, please come out and vote on November 5th. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next is the renewal process and deadlines for 2025 licenses.
Yes, I
Bree.
will take that. License holders in the town of Adams, that is your liquor licenses, innkeeper, lodging licenses, common victulars, all my folks who come and see me every year to do their annual renewals. We are coming up on that time, and I just want to give people plenty of heads up. So your 2024 licenses will expire on December 31st, 2024. License renewal paperwork will be available for pickup at Adams Town Hall in the town administrator's office beginning Monday, October 28th. On Monday, October 28th, I will be hosting 2 separate information sessions, one from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and one from 2 to 4 p.m. Those are drop-in sessions. I encourage any license holders who have any questions about licensing, renewals, what's necessary, how it's done, please come in and see me. I've carved out that time for that. License applications are due back to me by 4 p.m. on Monday, November 28th. All liquor licenses must be signed and dated in the month of November. And failure to return that paperwork to me by that deadline may result in the loss of a license. And that includes payment for the licenses that must be turned in at the same time as all of the applicable paperwork. So if you have any questions, come in and see me. I'm preparing all those big packets of paperwork. Drop in, we can discuss it, go through it, make sure that everyone understands what they need to do.
Okay.
Just one question, Bree. You'll be sending out to all the people that do have licenses now in advance to let them know that it's upcoming before they come in for the packet?
Everyone has already received an email from me
Yeah, great.
with this information plus more.
That's good.
Yep,
Okay, thank you.
yes.
And the final item of the evening is, as most of you know, Town Administrator Jay Green has accepted the Town Administrator position in the community of Lenox. The Board of Selectmen, whose responsibility it is to interview and to hire a replacement, we will have a meeting on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, at 6 p.m., where we will discuss the transfer timeline and also the board's plan for moving forward for a replacement. So that discussion will take place on Tuesday, this Tuesday, which I think is the 22nd, at 6 PM right here in the Board of Selectmen's meeting room. Okay?
Quick question, is that meeting gonna be televised?
It won't be televised, but it's going to be open. There's no executive session. It's going to be open discussion. Okay? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, none, unanimous.